Hello everyone, I'm Professor Geek. Welcome back to the channel, and welcome to finally another one of my Star Wars EU book reviews. I started these a while ago, a couple years ago probably, and the Expanded Universe website, Matt Wilkins' Expanded Universe website, had published them, because what I was doing as somebody coming to the EU relatively late, it wasn't until Disney started doing their nonsense that I was like, I need real Star Wars content, so I discovered the EU. And of course I read first, like the Thrawn trilogy. We did a book study of that, and I've been reading some key moments and whatnot throughout the different continuity, but I did want to take a journey through the chronological order of the EU, which of course started with the Dawn of the Jedi, the novel, and then the comics. And those were some of the most recent things written, but chronologically in the EU, they took place at the dawn of the Force and with the Jedi, on Tython before the dark and light side split and all of that. Great novel and great comics. I think they got a bad rap from some people, but I did my reviews. I'll link down below or up here or whatever, so you can check those out. But the next thing chronologically I wanted to hit was the Tales of the Jedi comics. There is a Lost Tribes of the Sith compilation, which is great, but those short stories chronicle this tribe of the Sith that thrived on this world or whatever, kind of lost, and it goes through large portions of the continuity, so I'm going to wait until that's the last story and that is done with its continuity run before I look at that. Anyway, we are going to talk about the Tales of the Jedi comics here, and these are really important. It's 2 omnibuses, the versions I've got. These are expensive to find if you can. There are links, and I'll put some links in the description below, but you can read these digitally pretty cheaply, I think, last time I looked. I'll put the links below again, so at least you can read the stories. And of course, there was a Tales of the Jedi audio drama that Al and I are going to discuss with you this Tuesday, and that can be found on the internet for free as well. I'll place links to that in the description below as well. What's so important about these, it really is a key piece to the EU, to the Star Wars EU. Star Wars, let me just give you a very brief, I know people know a lot more about this than I do, but just sort of the brief history of how the EU came to be. It sort of started on 2 fronts. You had the book publishers went ahead and got Timothy Zahn on board to do the Thrawn trilogy. And this is, I think it's 5 years after Return of the Jedi. Just an amazing book trilogy. Oh, so good. But on a separate front, kind of unbeknownst to what, Timothy Zahn was even doing, Dark Horse Comics went ahead and greenlit Tom Veitch to write the Dark Empire series of comics. Now, Tom Veitch is an incredibly pivotal character to the EU. He's very important, and I give him all the respect in the world. He did pass, I think not too long ago, tragically. He had a wonderful career. I say all that because I am a little critical of his work, and I will mention those critiques I have, but beyond all that, he's a very important player, and certainly Star Wars EU fans owe him our respect. He had the idea, again, unbeknownst to what Timothy Zahn was doing with the Thrawn trilogy or anything like that, he had the idea, okay, how do you continue the Star Wars story after Return of the Jedi? And he actually even talked to George Lucas about it. And his idea was, it frustrates me to even say this. I mean, you watch Star Wars, you finish up with the Return of the Jedi, you've just seen this amazing story, this amazing aspirational hero story about Luke Skywalker, who refuses to give in to the darkness within him, refuses to believe that Darth Vader, his father, can't be saved. Not even Darth Vader is too far gone to be saved. Just this wonderful, beautiful story of an aspirational hero, and the very next story you want to tell is, what if Luke Skywalker fell to the dark side? There's more to it than that, but that was the idea. That just is like, that's not where you... Do you even understand Star Wars? Come on, man. Just channel Joe Biden there. You know what I mean? Now, I will say I'm not a Dark Empire hater, and I do respect Tom Veitch as a storyteller and an idea man. But basically, let me just finish out the history, and I'll tell you how this works together, and finally get to Tales of the Jedi. But Tom Veitch was already writing Dark Empire, and then they had to kind of put him in contact with Timothy Zahn when they realized, this was going to be a shared universe they were making. Kevin J. Anderson, who would come in to write the books, after that, kind of did a lot of legwork tying it all together as well. If you look at Dark Empire for the way that the EU kind of came around it and developed the ideas around it, it's not that Luke falls to the dark side. Luke is trying to sort of pretend to be on the dark side to do something good for this or that, and it's I don't know. I'm not happy with the story, but I don't mind that it happened because the EU comes around it and kind of makes it make a lot of sense, especially some of the source books for the RPGs. The source book for Dark Empire, the source book for Heir to the Empire. These really kind of make it make sense, make it fit into the overall continuity, don't make it feel so disparate or disjointed. But Tom Veitch is really important because he set up then the Star Wars comics. He was at the ground floor of that, even kind of talking with Lucas and everything like that. Well, of course, the books went on to tell stories of Luke and Mara and Han and Leia, with their continued adventures and whatnot. But Tom Veitch then had the idea, and he pitched it, and I think his publishers were like, no, Lucas will never go for that. He wanted to tell the story of the history of the Force, the history of the Jedis, and the history of the Republic. What happened centuries before, the original trilogy. And he went to Lucas and asked him about it, and Lucas, again, loved the idea. Go for it. That'd be great. So what we have are these comics in the 90s, and again, I've got the 2 omnibus versions. I'll put links down below. Really wonderful content here. Wonderful history of the Republic, of the universe and everything. We get some really solid stories. I'll tell you some of the things about how it's written, and then we'll look at the themes, the common themes, and just the common great tales and history that we have here. The tales from the Tales of the Jedi, though, this History of the Republic series, is what, if we didn't have this, we wouldn't have the Knights of the Old Republic video game, the great classic BioWare Knights of the Old Republic. And then, of course, that was so popular. We got a sequel, we got the MMO and everything, but they also greenlit Knights of the Old Republic comics by John Jackson Miller, which were amazing. But if we wouldn't have any of that, if we didn't have the Tales of the Jedi comics, if Tom Veitch hadn't gone to the publishers and George Lucas and got this idea greenlit. Tom Veitch wrote this along with Kevin J. Anderson. You'll see that certain arcs were written just by Kevin J. Anderson. Certain arcs are written just by Tom Veitch. Some arcs, they both collaborate on the story, but then it says the script is just by Tom Veitch or just by Kevin J. Anderson. I'm a really big Kevin J. Anderson fan, and one of the things I'll say is I love the ideas. I love the ideas and the story that's being told throughout the whole series. But I think, for whatever reason, Tom Veitch's comic scripts, when he was writing these, don't really take a full advantage of the medium. You'll go through and you'll see long narration boxes, long prose boxes narrating things that are happening, and this stuff should be seen. It should be a scene. It should be a scene written into the story, especially for comics. You're writing a comic book, not an illustrated prose story, and that's what it kind of reads as. He's got these long and just these one after the other dialogue or narration boxes, and it's like, well, I feel like I'm reading an illustrated history book rather than reading a comic at times. That's my critique of Tom Veitch's scripts. But again, his ideas are great. Kevin J. Anderson's scripts don't have that problem at all. Kevin J. Anderson's very good at writing in scene, keeping us engaged. But occasionally, if it just reads like a history book, it's like I'm interested in the stuff that's happening, so I'm going to keep plowing through it. But it does feel a little like work sometimes. I want to have known what happened, so I'm going to keep going. But that great feeling when you're reading a comic or even a novel for that matter. And it's just like, you don't even realize, oh my gosh, I've just been 10 pages, and you're just like so sucked into the story. Well, that's what writing in scene does for you. This is one of the things you learn as a writer. Action, show, don't tell, and so forth. So I would say that, the quality of the comic scripts and the comic experience will go back and forth a little bit as to that. But in terms of the themes, we do start out with Volume 1, and we meet a number of incredibly pivotal characters, pivotal Jedi in the history of the Republic and in the history of the Jedi. One of them is, I think, he's not in there a lot, but he's very important, a character by the name of Odin And he's a scholar. This is in one of the first Kevin J. Anderson stories here, the very first one of the tale. He's a scholar, a Jedi scholar who likes to, and he's discovered, and this is one of the major themes around all of the Tales of the Jedi comics, and this does play a big factor into Knights of the Old Republic as well if you've played that game. But Odin rediscovers the practice of Jedi battle meditation. The Sith have their own version of this, but Odin discovers it. Odin is a Jedi scholar, but his Jedi master says, no, you've got to go out. You've got to go out to this system that needs your help. Some things are going on Alderaan, the Empress Tita system, and different things like that play into it. And you just get really great stories throughout. So we've got this scholar, this sort of reluctant hero, He's a great character, Odin Another theme we get is uh, duos, I guess, is a way. A lot of brother and sisters, but sometimes two lovers. But we get a lot of instances where are two brothers. In fact, so the first story starts out with these two brothers, this brother and sister, whose parents are running running medical supplies or whatever. Their parents die, so the brother and sister are going to go out and be scouts for hyper warp space routes and whatnot. And whenever you have a duo, and this is throughout whether Veitch or Anderson's work throughout the Tales of the Jedi, if you have a duo of people, a brother and sister, two brothers, two lovers or whatever, one of them's going to end up falling to the dark side and one's going to choose the light side. So this common theme throughout the Tales of the Jedi is that there are these two paths out there, the light and the dark. And some are going to choose dark, but you need to make sure you choose light. And it shows you very well the consequences. And once you've chosen the dark, we do have opportunities for redemption. We've got this quite a bit. So we do see the first two, Jory and, can't remember, Jory and Dagan, the two brothers and sisters I was just mentioning. Then eventually you get Ulic and Kay Kaldroma. Ulic Kaldroma, incredibly important Jedi of this time, and Kay, his brother. Eventually Ulic has a romance with this character by the name of Nomi Sunrider, who herself is very important, herself a very prominent and effective user of Jedi battle meditation. So the major themes, these duos and the duality of light and dark, that's what it echoes, and it does it so well. And how, some are going to follow the dark, some are going to follow the light. But there's always a plan for redemption, even when people have fallen to the dark. Now, not everybody who falls to the dark side gets redeemed. Sometimes, dark things happen in these comics too. I mean, we get some Sith sorcery. There are these two cousins, again, another duo, who both fall to Sith sorcery, and that's no spoiler. That you see that from the very beginning. But one, even though one doesn't choose the light side, choose the dark side, there is a duality that happens between them there. So yes, and really just it does a wonderful job, and this is one of the things that the EU does so well. It expands the universe without betraying or going back on anything of the spirit of the original trilogy. So we learn a lot about Sith sorcery, for example. We learn a lot about, and a lot of this stuff had been developed in the EU books that went on after the original trilogy and whatnot. But this is just a great example, or a great milestone in the EU development of going back to this era before, the Republic's history. And if we didn't have this, we wouldn't have, as I said, Knights of the Old Republic. We certainly wouldn't have the MMO that's still going on today, really the only source of EU stories that we can still get proper EU stories from. We wouldn't have any of the great novels, the wonderful novels. We wouldn't have wonderful characters. Bastila's great-granddaughter, Satil Shan, or Theron Shan. We wouldn't have all these wonderful characters, certainly Revan and so forth. And this is the real source. I will encourage people to, if you're looking and interested in the history of the Republic, don't go to Disney's High Republic, right? That's Disney's New Continuity, and there is really kind of hodgepodge and mismatched. This is the real deal. This is people who love the source material, love were mindful of continuity, greater continuities as well, being true to the spirit. It wasn't just, hey, you're a writer, go write a Star Wars story for me. It wasn't any kind of mastermind in the EU, but the writers would get together. They would compare notes. It was always somebody like a Kevin J. Anderson coming in after both Dark Empire and the Thrawn trilogy have been written to kind of weave it all together, So you had that a lot. Really great stories. I can't recommend enough. If you don't know who Nomi Sunrider is, she is an incredibly important Jedi. The saga of Ulic Qel-Droma. I've got the source book up here of Tales from the Jedi too, somewhere. Yeah, here it is, the Tales of the Jedi Companion. And these aren't printed anymore, but you can find used or whatever. Tells some great stories, and it fleshes out these this era as well, with some stories of Ulic Qel-Droma, Nomi Sunrider, and so forth. And if you're a Knights of Old Republic player, you remember you have a dialogue with Jolie Bindo. I'm pronouncing that really right. Jolie, anyway. You have a dialogue with him at one point where he's saying, "Oh, you remind me a lot of Nomi Sunrider." And actually, Bastila Shan was supposed to be Umi Sunrider, I think, or maybe Umi Sunrider's daughter. So that's Nomi Sunrider's daughter, or Nomi Sunrider's granddaughter, one, but they couldn't get agreements or whatever. So we ended up getting Bastila Shan, which is great, wonderful character. Her and Revan's line, of course, are very important to the Republic history moving forward and everything. No complaints there, but I just bring that up to show you how integrated this all is. The EU truly is this one continuity. There are hiccups now and then because of things came later or whatever, but really just a great thing. So Can't recommend Tales of the Jedi enough. Not as stellar of experience as maybe like Knights of the Old Republic comics, but very important, and I definitely would recommend you start there for some good, solid history of the Republic, and really riveting tales, wonderful tales of light versus dark, the duality within us, the redemption when there is, that's one of the things. It does end with a good close to the arc, a good close to the arc at the end of Ulla Qel-Dromma's life and everything like that, but I almost wanted more, I wanted where's the connective thread between Tales of the Jedi and the Knights of the Old Republic, things that we'll never get now, unfortunately, but recommend it. Do stick around for this Tuesday. Al and I will be discussing the audio drama of Tales of the Jedi, excuse me. And then next Tuesday, of course, don't forget, we will start our book study of Star Wars Shatterpoint. So links down below too, if you still haven't gotten your free Audible copy, or just pick up a paperback or whatever and join us 2 weeks from today. So that's all for now. I'll be back later, but until then, keep enjoying and digging deeper into the true blue hero stories you love best. Thanks for watching.